in South Carolina, all judges are required to retire at the age of 72. And I think he's 71. And so you see this man who sat on the bench for all these years and why he was chosen. It is that demeanor. It is that careful analysis of the facts and the law, and the ability to hold your cool in such a contentious type of case. And
keep cool in the courtroom, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in control of that courtroom.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a crazy courtroom.
Well, it made you feel at ease, but based on how he was.
Temperament is so important, right? Temperament is so, we say this all the time. You know, temperament of those who sit on the bench is so important. And I think that what this nation has seen is one of our best, right?
Oh, yeah. And this, I mean, this trial is going to be like a legacy for him just because it was so public, you know, such a public, I mean, for the whole world that was watching this. We had people, you know, from all over the world watching that live stream. I mean, they would pop in the morning and say, hello from whatever, Canada or Sweden, wherever they were. So it was very interesting that it gained so much.
Because we don't always get a judge like Judge Newman. We've had him on all ends of the spectrum.
And I think it's great that in this case, sort of the integrity of the judiciary has been challenged with all the stuff that Murdaugh got away with on the civil side and stuff. And so I think our judiciary has taken a hit in ways that I don't always agree with, because it doesn't happen the way it happened with Alec for everybody else. You know, our judiciary is doing a good job. And so for the nation to see that in Judge Newman during this trial, I think really they can't be talking smack about Judge Newman. And hopefully they'll think twice before they, you know, kind of roast all of our judges.
Right, and lump them all into this
because of the actions of this horrible person,
and
you know, this horrible lawyer.
And that's one of the things that he was trying to say even in sentencing is like that South Carolina and our whole judicial system has just been on trial itself. And, you know, and then said, you know, even during this process, SLED has been on trial, the cops, like everything. And that was probably also one of the reasons why he's gone to trial before other individuals who are still waiting for their trials.
We've been saying forever.
Right. You know, people sit and wait for years for a murder case to come up on trial, especially after COVID, when things were, you know, you had to put those aside and there were scheduling issues at that point. And so, you know, it's very clear that he understood that and brought that up even at sentencing.
Well, I, for one, was I feel like I would have been like yearning for his opinion if he didn't give it. So I was really happy that he was like, I totally agree with this jury. Like the evidence was overwhelming. I was really surprised to hear that, because I think a lot of people watching, especially if you don't watch trials all the time, you don't know all the little things going on. I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I know we did a poll and they weren't sure how the jury was going to go.
Rainey, so many people who are just like, I don't know, I felt like, you guys can tell me, but that whenever, because anytime, okay, like I was a hairdresser and I was getting my hair done and I turned around and I was like, hey girl, what you think about this case? Okay. And like, you know, because I want to know what a lay person thinks about this. You know, I reached and asked my mom, like, hey mom, what do you think about this? And it was so crazy that everybody it was very polarizing.
Very polarizing.
You like thought he was guilty or you just thought he was not. And I just liked hearing the different perspectives on why people thought one way or the other, but they didn't know. It was
so many people. I heard a lot of like, we know he's guilty of the financial stuff, but there's not overwhelming evidence that he killed them. You know, I heard that a lot too, or I saw that in our comments a lot.
I think it's because no one wants to believe that somebody would kill their family like that. You know, even though we know it happens, we just don't want to believe it. It makes it's really hard to kind of stomach and process.
Yeah, there's still questions about it. You know, even with after the guilty.
I'm in a Facebook Murdaugh murder group, and I just watch, and they're still debating this. I mean, they're still like going back and rehashing things, and it's been very polarizing. But I think that's why the apprehension is like we just don't want to believe that somebody would kill their wife and their son. It's just like this innate thing. We just don't want to believe it. But the reality is that he did.
I don't have that as much as like I don't want to believe it. I think like the reason it's guilty, so it's kind of like half satisfying. So I'm like, I know he did it, or he knows why, or he was there, right? But did he do it alone, and why? We still don't have this why. For me, it's always coming back to, where did all this money go?
well, that's the
where did all the money go question. And why were they killed? And we watched this whole trial and he's guilty, but we still don't, we don't have the why, and I don't know that we're ever going to get it.
And there's still weird details about like the changing of the guns and all these things where I'm just kind of like, what? I don't understand this. Like, how did this happen? But, I mean, I think we can all agree he knows.
But I think the people that were, I think the people who felt like he was guilty have that part of them. Yeah. But I think the people who were always saying not guilty, that the pull, because everybody is like, when they were saying, they would always qualify their answer with not guilty with, you just don't kill your kid, just like I did, like how I felt about it in the beginning. You just don't kill your kid. You know what I mean?
But I think that with the society the way that it is today, and how you watch movies and you watch TV shows and you watch things like CSI and Law and Order, and they always wrap it up in this nice pretty bow for you, right? And you have this witness who saw him pull the trigger, and you have this gun that has the DNA on it, and you have the shirts and the clothes with the milk on it. I mean, almost with the milk, with the blood on it. And you have this motive, right? You have this person who breaks down to police and tells them exactly why they did it, and here we don't have any of that. And your brain just has such a hard time. You can't wrap it around it, right? Because you want all of that.
Because this thing has been like a movie. We still want it wrapped up like a movie.
You want a key piece of evidence.
I don't think I'm ever going to get that, But you don't get that in a lot of cases, which...
And you certainly don't get that when the defendant is accused of murdering his wife and son, and the defendant is an attorney who knows better. I'm just saying, the same way the judge said, I had no expectation that you were going to stand up here at sentencing and all of a sudden tell us exactly what you were thinking when you pulled the trigger. Because you got an appeal coming, so
the system, what's coming.
So,
you know how to work it.
Yeah, you know the system.
You don't work the whole system that whole time, then get up there and say why you did it.
I noticed that all these people are posting a lot of the jailhouse calls, and I think what people have realized is that he really knows the system and how to work it better than anybody.
Well, I felt that way even when I was watching the Netflix show that was out. That was kind of an eye-opening thing to me. Because we all knew that he worked the system, but to actually see kind of surveillance and kind of hear all the people that were around with the boat crash, how he immediately went into action and kind of worked that system. You're like, oh. And even when he was on the stand and he was evading everything, you're like, oh, you're just like, okay, I can see how you.
We always make the joke he was the best lawyer in the room.
Yeah,
the way he would answer those questions. Oh, Mr. Waters, I understand you were wanting to ask me all these questions, and I want to answer you, and I believe, and you're like,
he asked the question,
biggest bunch of shit you've ever heard. And you're like, but it was like gold. It was just
he's like, I think some of what you said is the truth, but
entertainment value
not the truth. And I was like, if my clients would just say that,
right,
you would be in a better spot. But explaining to them that you can't answer partial questions, that was a lawyer answering those questions on the stands and watching out for the tricks that lawyers use against other people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
No, it was interesting for sure. Very, very interesting.
It was crazy.
It's when I think about the things that he was saying on the stand. And I'd always said, if he is the narcissistic piece of that everybody says he is, then we're going to get a show, right? Jazz hands and all.
Yeah.
And then he put it on.
You're right.
It did not work to his advantage, but entertainment value was pristine. I mean, my dad and mom were my mom had went to the doctor sick, and my dad would not even answer the phone. When my mom was calling to say what was wrong or whatever, he's like, I can't. Hung up on her, and she's like, your daddy hung up on me because Alex Murdaugh was testifying.
When life gets ugly, justice is